Gordy, I don't think it was a good idea I showed up to your family reunion uninvited. Hey there, Ray here, and today is the big day where I explain what Operation Double Trouble is all about. There was a lot of good guesses at what this project was about. Most people thought it was some farm of some sort, and indeed it is a farm, but it's not like most farms, which the goal is to obtain items which then you can store in chests. This farm was aimed at collecting a very precious and rare mob in the game. As you can tell from the title, this year I attempted to collect some mobs that are jockeys that had jack-o'-lanterns on their heads. Before we get into how I did it this year, I'm going to give a brief history on how I got into collecting jockeys. So as some of you have probably guessed, I have been playing this game for almost from the very beginning. And so I played through every single update that came to Vanilla Survival. So just as many people have, I got bored of survival back then and started looking for ways to make the game more interesting. One of the ways I did was try to capture and experiment on all the mobs that were out and as they came into the game. So when I found out about spider jockeys, I had fun trying to capture them, and also would try to catch the mobs with pumpkin heads and jack-o'-lanterns that came during the days of Halloween. And so 3 years ago I started combining these two in a challenge in an attempt to get jockeys mobs that had either pumpkins or jack-o'-lantern heads on them. Before we go down and see what we actually did collect, I'm going to kind of explain what I had going here. So this is that breeder that we made a while back, and then I have it so that when the babies do come out, they just come here and they just fall into these two water streams. And then I actually had this, so there was a hole here, and they would fall down there, and down there is where we had it all set up. So down here I had the baby villagers fall down, and they fell down onto a glass plate which had a piston hooked to it, and they would fall down right in there. And then I had a clock that just pushed the villagers off and into this water stream here, and once they would fall into this water stream they would be critically damaged. They'd be about half a heart or a heart, and all the babies would land in here. And then I had a zombie in here, and he would turn the baby villagers into baby villagers. I went ahead and turned the little farm on, and you kind of see how it was going. We just got a piston that's just pushing the baby villagers as they land into this water stream, and we got some villagers down in there which will attack the baby villagers and which will turn them into baby zombie villagers. And here we see there's another baby villager coming in, and he'll eventually get attacked by these villagers here and turn into a, yeah, see that? Turn into a baby villager. And then they all push themselves till they eventually get pushed over here, and there is an iron bar that's connected to these glass panes, and then there is a minecart that just picks them up and it just kills them over there. It's not completely like efficient or anything like that, but it works for what I needed it to. And the main problem with the setup is that when the baby villager is killed by the zombies, they will summon in a baby zombie villager near the location of the baby villager. So the baby villager is kind of pushed against a wall, like that happens most of the time. Then when they summon in the baby zombie villager, he can actually be like stuck inside these panes, and he can even like escape to the walls and stuff. It's pretty crazy stuff. But you can kind of get the idea of how this worked. And I just sat here manually and picked off the ones I wanted, and it was a lot of fun. Had a bunch of other server members on, and it was a pretty exciting day when we did this. So when a zombie spawns, he has a 5% chance of being a villager zombie, and he has a 5% chance of being a baby zombie. And for each baby zombie, there's a 5% chance that he will be a villager zombie then, and if it is a baby zombie, there's a 5% chance that he will be riding a chicken. So if you want a baby villager zombie to spawn, it's 0.25% chance that it will spawn naturally. And if you want a baby villager zombie jockey to spawn, it's 0.0125%. If you want a baby villager zombie jockey that has a pumpkin head, but without picking up items, it is a 0.00239%. But if you want a baby villager zombie jockey with a jack-o'-lantern head that does pick up items, it is a 0.0004687.5%. So you can see that it kind of compounds and becomes more and more difficult to get these very rare type of mobs. So statistically speaking, it had been very difficult for me to find, say, a jack-o'-lantern headed baby villager zombie riding a jockey just while strolling about in a normal world. So the main point of having the huge villager breeder was so that I could actually have zombies, spawn in zombies at a rate that was over the actual normal mob cap. So I didn't want to be dependent on the mob cap to spawn in zombies, and so I built a huge villager breeder so I can convert villagers into zombies. Now this helped with that situation because I wasn't dependent on the mob cap, and I had other farms that weren't dependent on the mob cap running at the same time. But the only problem is actually when the villagers become villager zombies, you would think that it would be too hard to get another 5% from every villager zombie, baby villager zombie, and to make him into a baby villager zombie riding a chicken. The only problem is that in the code it is set up so that when they do convert a villager into a baby villager zombie, that he actually has the same chance of becoming a baby villager zombie as he does becoming a jockey. This may seem very confusing, but the way to think of it is that when the baby villager dies, it becomes a normal zombie, and just as a normal zombie is spawned in naturally, it has the same chances to become, a baby zombie as it does to become a jockey, as it becomes to have a villager, and this is what's happening here. Even though you can't see the chance of it becoming a baby zombie because it already is a baby, you can't see the chance of it becoming a villager zombie because it already is a villager zombie. When it comes to actually seeing it become, like riding a jockey, become a jockey, the chances are just as low as if it naturally spawned in. So having baby villagers coming in and converting them over did not help me at all trying to get a chicken jockey villager baby zombie. I noticed this on my own, and this is what I speculated was going on. And recently in 1.9 they actually seem to fix this, at least they say they did. And I think they now have it so that once the baby villager does get killed and converted over to a zombie, it will then have that small 5% chance to ride a chicken, and this will allow it to be much easier to get these type of rare mobs in 1.9. What also is fixed in 1.9 is the jack-o'-lantern floating above the baby zombie's head. And I always liked this feature, but in 1.9 they say that it is fixed. So if you want to get these type of baby villagers with the floating pumpkin heads, you probably should do it in 1.8 while it still exists. So it is worth mentioning that I am playing on a multiplayer server that is in hard mode, which allows 100% conversion from the villager baby into the villager zombie baby. Of course, if you're playing on single player and it's not Halloween, you can actually just change the date of your computer over to the date of Halloween, and this will allow you to get the jack-o'-lantern headed and the pumpkin headed mobs to spawn naturally. But I'm playing on a multiplayer server, and I just had to wait to the day of Halloween. So I had 24 hours to try to collect as many of these, or at least attempt to try to collect these. So there is a feature that if there's chickens nearby when a zombie is spawned in, there is an additional 5% chance that the baby villager or the baby zombie will try to ride a chicken. So I put a bunch of chickens around here, and this allowed a small percentage to actually hop onto these chickens. And that's how I caught this guy. I also caught, he has a twin brother over here. Caught this guy too. And he doesn't hold any items. But just as I said before, because of that bug, I only had about um, six zombies hop onto these chickens. So you can definitely tell that the bug was in effect, and it really messed up the rates of this farm. Now you can actually get zombies to wear pumpkins on their heads. So that's why it's important to, if you do try to go for the pumpkin welding ones on Halloween, that you get ones that don't pick up items. So even though this guy is like walking on top of these eggs, he doesn't pick up the eggs. Now if he was a normal welding or zombie, he would pick up the pumpkin and wear it, and then he would also pick up the eggs in his hands. So that's how you can tell if they're from Halloween, if you can get ones that don't pick up any items in their hands. So as I showed, I got two baby villager zombies that are jockeys, because they're riding the chicken, and they got pumpkin heads. And I got those from the zombies, or from the villagers over here becoming zombie villagers, and then they just automatically jump over here and land on these chickens. And the other one I got are all the jack-o'-lantern welding ones that have jack-o'-lanterns on their heads. But sadly, I did not get any of them to be on top of chickens. I didn't get any jockey, jack-o'-lantern, baby villager zombies. And this is because of that bug, which makes it extremely difficult. But here I think this one is with a sword, so he's a little bit, he's more rare because he actually spawned with a sword. And here I got one, which is kind of funny, but since you cannot actually hand zombies jack-o'-lanterns and they won't weld them, they can actually pick them up in their hands. So if you actually try to get like a zombie to hold, let's say, a iron helmet in his hand, it wouldn't be possible, because he would either put it on his head or else he wouldn't pick it up at all. So this is kind of interesting, where you can get a jack-o'-lantern on his head, and you can also get him to hold a jack-o'-lantern. And this guy over here just picked up a block, I think, and he's also a jack-o'-lantern. So these are rare. Of course, they're not as rare as if they were riding on chickens, but I was really satisfied that I actually got the ones that I did get in the time I did have to get these. So you can see I name tagged all the zombies so they won't despawn, and you don't have to name tag the chickens because they won't despawn until the zombie on top despawns. But I think that's all there really is to this farm, and let's go over to the next farm and see what that's all about. So we're here on my island, and over there is where I built it. I have, yeah, up here I have a ladder, and the same setup as I showed before. Up here I have the portals facing each other, and I got the rail, and they had the minecart that goes back and forth. And as I shown, like, the pigmen will fall down into this water stream here. But what I didn't show is that part way down I have it so that when the pigmen fall down a ways, there is another current, and there's actually a current of water that is, I think I can get in there maybe. They're not aggro on me. Yeah, I have another current that's going this way, and it just sends everything that gets caught up in the current, which is the chickens. It has them pulled over and dropped into this little holding bay here. So after I caught a whole bunch of there's like maybe half of them were pigment jockeys, and the other half were actually just baby pigmen that got pushed over to the side, and they just ended up in there too. But after it got pretty full, I just came in here and I just started sorting through them with the minecart until I got one that was what I was looking for, which is a baby pigman jockey, with a jack-o'-lantern for a head. So that was really nice to find him in there. And all the rest I just let despawn. So the chance of getting a baby pigman to spawn is 5% out of all pigman spawns. And then the chance of getting a baby pigman jockey is 0.25%. And the chance of getting a baby pigman jockey with a jack-o'-lantern head is 0.00625%. So it's actually quite a bit greater chance of getting this than it is to get a baby villager zombie jockey with a pumpkin head. So they're not actually as rare as they may seem to be at first. This is because you don't have to try to get them in the villager form. And as we're just sitting here, you see that we just got another pigman jockey come through. So they're really not that rare, especially if you build a really big portal farm like I did here. So the difficulty behind getting a pigman in the overworld is obviously that pigmen are naturally from the nether. So you could try to get a pigman jockey in the nether. The only problem is you wouldn't be able to transport them over to any other dimensions, since jockeys of all types cannot go through portals since they are riding another entity. It's just like if you're riding a minecart, you can't go through a portal. So the trick here was try to get the 3 different types of jockeys in the overworld. So that's why I made a portal farm instead of, say, making some kind of pigman farm in the nether. If you were trying to make it a bit more challenging, you could try to get one like this, but let's say you try to get enchantment on his sword, or maybe you try to get one who can hold items, or hold his armor. And I haven't seen if this guy can take on armor or not, but I really just like him in his natural form. Next we'll head over to the spider spawner and see if there's anything over there to look at. So we're here at the spider spawner, and I showed this last episode where we had the spider spawner in the water that brought the spiders down, and they got sent over here and killed in the lava. And what I didn't show is when I did get that string, I was able to complete the next part, which is just a detection. So then when a skeleton is riding a spider as a spider jockey, he'll activate this and he'll get sent up this spiral roller coaster up here, and these rails will take it all the way to the top, and then I'll drop it down this white glass tube here. And I got some cobwebs every so often so that the spider does not take too much damage when it drops. And I would just AFK here and let the spider jockeys stack up here, and I'd be within range so that they could not despawn. And then after they filled up, then I just come through and remove the ones I didn't want. During the Halloween event, I asked Smokey if he could help me AFK, and he was AFK here as a spider jockey that had a jack-o'-lantern head came through the system. And when I came to name tag it, I was lagging so badly that when I tried to click on the skeleton, I actually clicked too high and clicked onto an empty minecart that was on top of the skeleton's head. And I ended up going inside of that minecart, and I quickly exit the game hoping that that wouldn't to stop the skeleton from trying to shoot at me. But apparently I was lagging and I was still in the game, and he actually did try to shoot me, and he somehow ended up shooting downward and shot the spider, and he had a really powerful bow and he killed the spider. So unfortunately we killed the only jack-o'-lantern headed spider jockey that we got out of this farm. But luckily every single year I was able to get a spider jockey with the jack-o'-lantern head, so I wasn't too concerned about that. But I feel sorry for Smokey because he was AFK here for quite a while hoping to get one. So the chance of getting a spider jockey is 5% of spider spawns, and the chance of getting a spider jockey that has a jack-o'-lantern head is 0.125%. So it's not that rare, but it's kind of interesting to get them because they are kind of the oldest kind of jockey, and the oldest jockey with the jack-o'-lantern head possible. And while we're standing here, we actually got a spider jockey to come through the system, and he's just slowly falling down through these cobwebs right now. So here comes the spider jockey. You can see how the cobwebs help slow down the spider, that way the spider doesn't take so much damage when he comes and hits the bottom. And we weren't able to get another spider jockey with a jack-o'-lantern head, um, even though we tried. But afterwards, um, I went through the whole stack of them, and we were able to get a spider jockey that has an invisible spider. He's back in here, and I'll pull him up and we'll look at him. So here you can see him. It's a skeleton with a pumpkin head and an invisible spider. You can see the spider's eyes right there. And during the event, we were having some bug where it was like taking the texture away from the outside of all the mobs. So like all the armor was invisible and all the headpieces were invisible. So I couldn't really tell if he actually had a pumpkin head or not. So then I had to wait a while, and I came back, and then the kind of glitchy bugness was gone. And I actually see he does have a pumpkin head, and he's on top of a invisible spider, which is kind of cool. I'm not sure if he can pick up items or not, but I think it's worth keeping him around since all the rest of them I killed off. Here you can kind of see the glitchy bugs I was talking about. You can see it with this ender chest here. And this was kind of the problem I was having during the Halloween event. Something else interesting to mention is that all the jockeys, or all the mobs that took on Halloween heads, like pumpkins or jack-o'-lanterns, will not have armor. And I think this is because when the game is putting armor on them, it starts with the helmet, and if it was like an iron helmet, then it would do like the iron chest plate and the iron leggings. But when it gets a pumpkin, it just stops there and doesn't do anything else because there's nothing else that goes with the pumpkin. I was really surprised that I actually got this event off before Halloween. Because of some unexpected events, I wasn't able to actually build some of these farms until the very day before the Halloween actually came out, and I ended up building some of the farms right during the Halloween event. So I was kind of surprised that I actually got this finished and got some results. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to record during the event, and this is because I had quite a few alternate accounts going on, plus the server was taking a lot of strain, and I actually had some network problems. So that's why I tried to get some people to help me AFK in case my network would go down and I would lose the mobs that weren't named at that time. The good thing is that there's always next year, and I already have next year planned out, which I thought I was going to be able to get to this year, but I ended up having to take some shortcuts, and I think I'll probably prepare a little bit more ahead of time and get this stuff built up before the actual event occurs. There you have it. We examined jockey farms and looked into how to obtain some of the rarest mobs in the game. If you have any questions about jockey farms, or if you have some suggestions for the names to give these jockeys, I'd like to hear about it. But Christmas is coming up, so next episode we might have to get our coal factory going. That's going to do it for now. Thanks for joining me as I have fun in survival. Bye bye.